Hello, you're through to Vanessa at the Life Sutra. Today I want to teach you how to make sauerkraut. If you're a beginner fermenter, I would highly recommend starting with sauerkraut. It was certainly where I started a few years ago, and it's the simplest and easiest one to start with. All you need is a cabbage. I like to use the purple cabbage. I love the vibrant colour on my plate with my dinner. A mason jar or a kilner jar that you can buy in any supermarket. Some sea salt. You can also use other methods for fermenting. You could use whey from dripped yogurt, or you can even use celery juice. But I like to use salt in its natural form, so either sea salt or pink Himalayan. Table salt does not do the same job. A bowl for putting your chopped cabbage in. And I like to use a jam jar or something like a rolling pin to force the cabbage down into the jar as well. Sauerkraut is something that's been around for many, many generations. It's used in pretty much every country as a form of preserving food, but it also lines the digestive tract and protects your gut. It synthesizes all the vitamins and minerals of all the other foods that you eat. It's really good at producing something called vitamin K2, which has been found to be as important to health as vitamin D, and is quite often lacking in the diet. And it's a really good source of therapeutic grade probiotics, but in its most natural form. So what do? You just need, I use a food processor for chopping my cabbage, but if you chopped it by hand, you would just cut it into quarters, like so. You want to remove the stalk, so just when you've done it into a quarter, you just want to chop away any stalk. That's the hard bit to take out. And if you're chopping it, you literally just nice and thinly slice it into sort of bite-sized pieces. As I said, I use a food processor with the S-shaped blade. I chop it nice and finely, and then I sprinkle it with salt. You'll see lots of directions online to just add sort of between 1 to 2 tablespoons of salt. I don't tend to measure, I tend to sprinkle and go, and then I tend to taste it. I also tend to leave the salt on it for a little while, and what you'll start to notice that as the cabbage starts to break down, the cell walls start to break down, a juice starts to appear in the bottom of the bowl. And as you take your cabbage and you give it a good squeeze, you notice the juice starting to come out, and that's the sauerkraut happening, that's the magic happening. So when you've got it to a point, when you've given it a really good knead, to the point where you've got the juice coming out like that, I see it working really well, you just want to take that sauerkraut and you want to put it into your jar. This can get a little bit messy. So you place it into your jar like this. And it's important to know you might want to start with cabbage, but you can also ferment any other kind of vegetable as well. So other good ones to try are adding some carrot, some Chinese leaves, some peppers. Garlic's a really nice addition. If you like it spicy, you could add some chili. I've added other spices, so I've added turmeric for sort of anti-inflammatory purposes. Ginger's really nice. I normally add carrot. In fact, I've added a couple of carrots into this one as well. So start off simply with the cabbage, and then try lots of different various combinations from there. So as you start to push the cabbage in, you just want to keep forcing it down with each time, and you'll start to notice that the liquid is coming up over your hands, and that's what you want. You want to have all the cabbage submerged underneath the liquid. If you don't get a liquid, don't worry, you can add a little bit of water, but what I would do is add a little bit of sea salt to the water to create what's called a brine. Pour that on top, and then you've got all your cabbage submerged. But really, if you keep pushing it down, eventually you'll notice the brine coming up. I then use the jam jar, and I give it a really good push, and then you'll notice that the liquid is rising right above the cabbage, and that's exactly what you want. Once you've got that process, I would take one of the outer cabbage leaves, place it on top. That just keeps all the cabbage down, stops any little bits from floating up. I would normally then fill this with water. That just weights it down a little bit. Pop it on top. And then all you need to do from there is put a tea towel on top with an elastic band around it. That just keeps any flies out in the hot weather. And transfer it to somewhere that's room temperature, so either onto your kitchen side or into a cupboard. Just check on it every couple of days, and if the cabbage starts to rise up, you can just push that back down. What you'll notice is a little foam appearing around the top. That's the fermentation process. That's totally normal. If any cabbage does rise above and it starts to discolour or go mouldy, that's absolutely fine. All you need to do is remove that little piece of mould, and all the cabbage underneath is absolutely fine to consume. It's a perfectly normal part of the process. I know sometimes people get put off by fermentation thinking it's gone off cabbage, but it's really not the same process as leaving your cabbage on the side to go mouldy. This is total preservation on what was used before we had refrigerators. And it's really, really delicious. So I would say start very slowly. If you're new to sauerkraut, just introduce it slowly. It's very powerful, potent stuff. You can get what's called a die-off reaction. So as the good bacteria kills the bad bacteria, you can get slight worsening of symptoms. So if you get something like eczema or digestive symptoms, you can notice it slightly. But if you just start with, say, a teaspoon with each meal and increase it from there, you'll have that totally minimised and you won't notice it. So I hope that's encouraged you on how easy it is to make sauerkraut. I hope you have a go. If you enjoyed watching, please subscribe to my channel and keep in touch to watch more videos coming soon. If you've got any questions, please add them in the comments below. There are more instructions also on my website, thelifesuture.com. Thanks for listening.